right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webcast. I see a lot of people have already joined. Welcome, all of you, from your various different time zones. I'm seeing a lot of people from the US, of course, but I'm seeing also a large number of people from Europe. And I know there was a lot of people from Australia and other parts of APAC who registered. I'm sure they're probably not here live. They'll catch the replay. So let me introduce myself. I'm Martin Boyd. I'm VP Product Marketing here at Profisee, and we have a packed agenda for you. Here on the call, we also have Eric Melcher, Chief Technology Officer of Profisee, Sunil from Microsoft, representing Microsoft Azure Data Factory, he's Product Manager, and Srikanth, representing Purview from Microsoft, who's also in the product management and product communications role. So what we're going to be talking about today is why MDM and governance are better together, in particular, why Profisee MDM is the best choice of an MDM solution for Azure, because of a lot of integration work that we've done that we're going to be talking about today. So there are three learning objectives for today's discussion. First one is why does the Azure data estate need MDM in the first place? Why is this even something that we should care about? Why is a multi-domain approach to master data management important, or in fact, I would say essential? And why is Profisee MDM the best MDM solution for Azure? And we'll be spending a bunch of time on that last part, but we'll be discussing the first two for context to make sure everybody is clear on why this is an important topic to cover in the first place. So I'm going to dive in, and then at various points we'll be having everyone else speak and present and show live software as part of this. So I think we all know that data is a strategic asset. More and more companies are treating it that way. Gartner said that 90% of corporate strategies will cite information as a critical enterprise asset by 2022, which at this point is next year. So I think that's already well underway. We also, Profisee that is, just recently sponsored a study with Harvard Business Review where they surveyed their audience and found that 96% of the respondents believe high quality enterprise data is of moderate or great importance. Most people said great. And 87% believe that a strong MDM program is important to future success of the organization. So I think it's relatively straightforward. I think that that's something that's going to be important for everybody. Let's look at a few examples of customers of ours who have done this and just kind of give you an idea of how they thought about it and what they did. So 7-Eleven, for example, had a business objective to launch a customer loyalty program, targeted promotions, analytics, and CCPA, which is equivalent somewhat to GDPR privacy compliance. So this was a large set of transformational objectives that they had. As they started working on that, they realized that they would need to build or need to have a solid foundation for core data from multiple sources. And they didn't have that when they looked closely. And so they discovered that they had to master their customers, products, and locations. And so they bought Profisee to do that. And they've been doing that for a few years. We did a webcast with 7-Eleven a little while back. You can find it on our website if you want to hear them talking more about it. The point is they had a big corporate goal that required their data to be really good. Same with Domino's. They had an objective to reduce costs, improve customer service, and increase average order size. They wanted to improve their customer lists in order to make real-time AI-based recommendations to customers as they were real-time making orders, which meant they had to master their customers and locations. And since then, they've actually expanded to a lot of other assets and domains based off of that. MD Anderson Cancer Center, the largest cancer research center in the US, wanted to enable data sharing for research and drive operational efficiency. In particular, on the research topic, when COVID started, they wanted to be able to research interactions between cancer treatments and COVID. And so they needed to expand a lot of the research they were doing, expand a lot of their diagnoses codes. They needed to standardize them in a way that they could share with other organizations like Johns Hopkins University Medical Center, for example. So they had to centralize some core domains and reduce redundant data entry. And that meant they had to master their patients, providers, locations, suppliers, reference data, etc. So these are the kind of large transformational projects that companies are thinking about, they clearly require some data foundation, and that usually requires mastering their data underneath the surface. So that's kind of the context for all of this, why it's important. So if you think about this from a data strategy perspective, the people most responsible for that would be the chief data officer, the chief data architect, titles similar to that. They will be thinking about how do we leverage our data for digital transformation, BI and analytics, operational efficiency, how to use advanced technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning, and compliance, etc. And we view the answer to how they should then think through that as a two-step process. First, figure out what data do we have, what sources do we have, what's the lineage, is there any sensitive data that needs to be handled in any particular way? And as you guys would know, in the Microsoft and Azure world, that is Azure Purview. That's really the space that it fills. The second step is, having discovered the data sources, is my data ready to use? How can I combine the data sources? Because we're going to find that there's redundant data, duplicated data from multiple places nearly always. How can I enforce data governance rules? And ultimately, how can I ensure my data is high quality and trusted? And that's what Profisee does. So there's a natural linkage of these two products logically. And so we've done a lot of work that you're going to see in just a moment and hear about to integrate these products so that they work seamlessly together. And if we drop down to the next level down, an example of some kinds of data sources would be Dynamics 365, SAP, Salesforce, a combination of ERP, CRM, custom applications, cloud apps, legacy apps, whatever the data sources are. When you look at that data from an Azure perspective, you discover that there's generally relatively poor data quality. There's going to be missing and incomplete information, and there's going to be duplicated and conflicting information between a lot of these data sources. And that is absolutely 100% normal and to be expected. If you had anything other than that, it would be surprising. Because these data silos, the data that was created in these data silos was not generally created according to a common set of standards. So this is what you end up with. But it's not what you need. What you need is high quality, trusted data that is complete and consistent and accurate. There's various data consumers that you're expecting, Synapse, Power BI, machine learning, et cetera, in order to drive these objectives that we talked about before of digital transformation, BI, operational efficiency, and compliance. So you have a gap between data as you have it and data as you need it. So how do we fill this in? And this is really the crux of everything that we're trying to communicate today. How do we fill this gap to take our data to drive these big corporate goals? First step, as we said before, use Azure Purview to find and classify data sources and define common data standards. So the more governance you can do and the more a broad view the governance platform has of your data, the better. But governance, specifying the governance standards doesn't change the data, doesn't fix it, doesn't actually merge it, and that's what master data management is for. We're there, Profisee MDM is there to enforce data standards, to match and merge data between different sources, to validate that the data conforms to our governance and data quality requirements, to remediate the data where it doesn't conform to those requirements already, and you're going to see some of this in just a moment, and then to synchronize the data across systems. So we want to be able to grab data from here, move it through here, get it into a high quality trusted situation where it can be used, and that is where Azure Data Factory comes in. And you're going to see that and how it integrates. One of the things that is important to point out, this slide, and most often when we think about this, we think about a left to right flow from source to target. But in MDM, it's not, that would be fine if all you're trying to do is report on it. But if you're trying to drive operational efficiency, you probably need to take some of this newly created high quality data and feed it back into the source systems. And Azure Data Factory helps us out with all of that as well. So you're going to see all of this in just a moment, presented in live software and by the various representatives of the products. Okay, so before we just jump straight to that, I want to talk a little bit about master data and master data domains. So this is an important concept that not everybody understands out of the gate. Profisee Master Data Management has in the ability to create any number of master data models in the software. The master data model then allows us to do match merge, data quality, workflow enrichment, hierarchy management, all of the things that we do functionally, and to integrate that across the landscape that we just talked about. So these master data models are very important. I put in here customer because it is probably the most commonly requested one, but a lot of companies make the initial mistake of thinking that I only need to solve my customer data problem or my product data problem. And nearly always it's the combination of domains is where the value really gets derived. So just building out a customer domain is a good start, but it generally doesn't solve anything. If you want to do a cross-sell and upsell campaign, you probably also need reference data to standardize the customer data, and also product data that's going to be standardized through reference data, but also in its own right. Now we can look at previous transactions, and we can look at standardized information and use AI or machine learning to predict who might want what in the future and offer them custom cross-sell and upsell campaigns or marketing offers, etc. So even for this relatively simple objective, you need at least, I would argue, 3 or 4 domains. If you're trying to do strategic procurement in manufacturing, you probably need to look at the assets that you're buying, the suppliers, the locations they're being delivered to, in order to have a complete view of that part of the business in order to accomplish this objective. If you're in financial services, you want not just customers, but households, product offerings, contractual information in order to drive key elements of your business. If you're in healthcare, and there's a lot of change happening here because of regulations and all kinds of different things, you want to be able to look at providers and patients, medical facilities, treatments. There may be some relationship between the models you have for patients and customers, but what you track on a patient is very different than what you track for someone who just hit your e-commerce site. So these would all be, similar but different domains. If you're in food service, completely different set of things to think about. Menu items, ingredients, locations, and this goes on and on and on. Depending on your use case, your industry, what it is that's high priority for you, what business objectives you're trying to manage. The bottom line, though, is that there are an infinite number of domains out there, and anybody that tells you that they have already figured out what you need, I would say is mistaken. Most of our customers, Profisee customers, are multi-domain. They have more than one, 83% have more than one domain, 63% implement a second domain in their first year. The bottom line here, if you're thinking about master data management, is your platform must cover all the domains required for your business. And that's, hopefully words to the wise. Anybody who's thinking about MDM, this is incredibly important, and it's something that is at the core of what Profisee does. Okay, with that, I'm going to introduce Eric Melcher, our VP of, our Chief Technology Officer, I should say. Sorry, I almost demoted you, Eric. To talk a little bit about our product and some of the integrations that have been done with it.
Yeah, so today we're going to be going through a demo that will cover off, kind of the Profisee, the data management platform, as well as, highlighting some of the integration we've done with some of these different Azure products. So rest assured, though, we're not going to touch on every data management capability, but we do have a broad coverage of all the types of capabilities we expect from a master data management platform on the Gartner Magic Quadrant, et cetera. So we'll touch on things like data quality and golden record management, stewardship and governance, et cetera. In addition to that, what we're really going to be focused on today is helping you see the work we've done with these different product teams within Microsoft to help make it easier to deploy Profisee into an Azure data estate or ecosystem. So for Purview, what we see out there is every organization that's looking seriously at data governance has also been thinking about, okay, once we understand what we have, how do we actually start improving that data? So if they're thinking about data governance, they're thinking about data management and vice versa. So there's a lot of synergies in this integration that allows Profisee to natively participate in data governance and allow organizations to use us in conjunction with Purview, but then to also make the governed information that's captured within Azure Purview back available to data stewards within Profisee. So it really glues together two very closely related technologies in a really elegant way that allows you to get maximum benefit from both. With respect to Azure Data Factory, data management platforms can't become data silos unto themselves. So We've been working closely for the past year with the Azure Data Factory team, working with them to leverage some of the new integration capabilities within ADF to make it easier to integrate data in and out of Profisee using ADF. With ADF's broad ecosystem of connectors, that makes it simpler for organizations to integrate Profisee in with the heterogeneous other applications and data systems that exist. So, helps prevent, MDM can't become a new silo of data. It makes it easy to connect Profisee into and create a true flow of information across the enterprise. And then lastly, most organizations that are increasingly moving towards the cloud, a lot of organizations are adopting Azure, particularly in the enterprise space. And Profisee runs natively in Azure as a platform as a service architecture. So we've re-architected the platform. It runs now natively inside of containers. We can use tools like Kubernetes to orchestrate those containers within Azure. And we've done a lot of work and productize that experience where spinning up Profisee in Azure is a very similar experience to what you would get from other native Azure tools. So today we're going to try to highlight some of the work we've done in these different areas and help you understand how we've streamlined the overall experience of delivering data management to your enterprise. So what you'll see in the demo, I might actually hand it over to Shrikant here in a moment, and he's going to start with an overview of Purview. Purview's role is to clearly provide governance across the entire data estate. So not just MDM, but everything, right? Your source applications, your downstream analytics, and the goal is to enable Purview and Profisee to natively work together. So Shrikant will cover some of the broad capabilities of Purview, including how that interacts with Profisee. And then we'll also show how then once you understand what information you have, that's what Purview helps you figure out is what do I have and where is it? We'll then look at how Azure Data Factory can make it easy to start integrating that information across the overall architecture. We'll then dig into Profisee. How does Profisee take this raw data coming out of these source applications, and how can we automatically transform it into trusted data that can be used within downstream analytics systems? And we'll wrap up with highlighting a common use case that we see around cross-sell and upsell by showing how this better information is enabling our business in downstream analytics tools like Synapse and Power BI. So hopefully, as we go through the demo, you'll see how we've connected all these dots together. So to begin with, I'll turn it over to Shrikant, who will start us off with the demo of Purview. Shrikant?
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. What we wanted to kind of start with is to give folks an introduction to Purview. Purview is a new service that we just made generally available this past September, towards the end of September. And it has a very interesting origin story within Microsoft. As Microsoft, we have one of the largest data estates on the planet, and our own Microsoft Digital and Microsoft IT teams were trying to use a plethora of tools to get this end-to-end view into our own internal data estate. And that prompted a lot of questions about, hey, if we are facing the same challenges, especially with all the new regulations that are coming up, such as CCPA, GDPR, et cetera, how do we kind of get this unified view across this entire data estate so we can get the insight that we need and be able to do all of our operations, business operations on that data in a compliant manner, while being able to democratize this data for insights harnessing across the entire company. So that question kind of grew our partnership with a number of our customers. So we went and polled a bunch of customers. So the data governance space is pretty fragmented with lots of smaller vendors who are providing piecemeal these kind of solutions. So as Microsoft, we kind of went back, took all that feedback, and what we surfaced through these conversations with various customers, especially around the chief data officer sort of personas and their task today, is that we need a view into a very comprehensive, cross-disciplinary sort of perspective on this entire data estate. And with the increasing complexity with hybrid, multi-cloud, on-prem, SaaS services, a mix of variety of different data assets that are sitting out there, there are very key questions that are becoming important that these chief data officers that we've interviewed that they wanted to address. So these are questions like, what data do I have? without that knowledge, you will not be able to put any proper controls in place and also be able to democratize the right data to the right folks so they can get the insights or they can do their jobs in some cases. Where did this data come from? So the lineage aspect that Martin touched upon earlier is very important. Is this data trustworthy? Does it have any kind of toxicity or exposure to risk, etc.? Is the usage of this compliant? All of these are questions around your data estate that chief data officers that we've spoken to are wrangling with in their day-to-day experiences. And then with the recent regulatory regimes coming up around privacy, there's this tension between democratization and having the compliance in place. So essentially that boils down to two challenges. One is there's this data sprawl with all kinds of variety of data across various data sources, everything from structured, unstructured, various types of services where this data resides. So how do you make sense of all of this? First, to be able to even figure out what data lies where is the prerequisite for all of this. And that is where a lot of our customers face challenges as they're going through their own digital transformation journey. They have some part of it in on-prem, some of it in other areas. So it's a very complex and challenging task to be even get an inventory of all of this so you can get some actionable insights on that. So go to the next slide, Eric. So what we found with what constitutes the rational kind of capabilities that are needed is around the ability to manage this growing multi-cloud, hybrid, multi-service sort of landscape, and to do this in a cloud-native fashion and at hyperscale that most of our customers require, just given the data volumes that are exploding within their data estates. What this means is that this governance functionality has to encompass over any kind of operational silos that they may have, and to be able to work with that the momentum towards democratizing this data, especially with a lot of the citizen analysts and citizen data scientists and those kinds of personas showing up within the enterprise, to be able to get insights for them while being compliant in the usage of the data across this landscape. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, so that's the reason why we ventured into this space as Microsoft and built Azure Purview, which is a cloud-native cataloging service at this point. And then we've got a functionality in there underlying, which is called Data Map. We'll talk about those in a little bit. The idea here is Purview lets you get this end-to-end perspective on governance by starting out with the cataloging end of the spectrum and then being able to provide various types of enforcement. If you can go back to the slide for just 1 second, the previous slide. Yeah, so the idea here is that we need to create a unified data map to be able to start with, and then to be able to enable self-service discovery that can power the various types of business insights that the users are demanding. And then that will give you the ability to manage this data estate and extract the value from your data estate investments. So now we can do the next slide. Okay, so if you look at the picture for the entire Azure Purview experience, we start at the bottom. Our customers' data estates are becoming increasingly complex. You see a lot of variety at the bottom here. We have operational databases, analytics, on-prem, multi-cloud, SaaS kind of services. The foundational platform component that powers Purview is what we call the data map. Think of this as a giant connected graph where various assets that are sitting in these systems, these could be physical or logical assets. We capture a variety of metadata for those, and we connect them up with the relationships between them. So the graph has assets as the edges, assets at the nodes, and then the relationships at the edges between them. So we construct this automatically by connecting to these data sources and cataloging them and surfacing them through a cataloging application that you see here. So cataloging is not the only part of your governance journey. So we need other capabilities such as data sharing, data quality, data access governance, data privacy, and of course, MDM, which is the other topic that we're talking about today. All of these capabilities, the other capabilities we talked about are on our roadmap that are coming in private and public previews in the upcoming quarters. The data catalog and the data map and the underlying scanning infrastructure is generally available today. So we'll talk a little bit about that and show you how that integrates seamlessly with Profisee. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, so Purview went generally available just about weeks ago. So we have we've already cataloged in the public preview model, 57 billion plus assets. We have quite a few customers who went through the public preview, so it's already vetted and a lot of road miles on it, lots of assets that have been cataloged. Just to kind of give you the scale, even though we are a new service, we've done quite a bit of work in terms of being able to manage these large data estates. If you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so what's the differentiator for Purview? So Purview is probably one of the few in the market that are provide the hybrid data scanning and classification, cloud-native hyperscale infrastructure coming from Microsoft. Integrates with a variety of services. We have 35 plus connectors with more and more being added almost every month. We cover multi-cloud, so basically we cover AWS, Google, as well as your on-prem assets. We have automated connectivity and labeling that's coming from the Azure Information Protection and M365 side of the house. So whatever labels and classifications you're used to using in Office or in SQL Server, etc., seamlessly flow in. We extract lineage to give you that end-to-end picture, and all of this from a central console, so you can get that insight and build upon that within your environments. Go to the next slide.
A little bit of a lag. It's coming.
Yeah. All right, so that's just the screenshot showing you the lineage, and then our roadmap is to, look at. Today we have the data catalog and data insights is in public preview. Data sharing is coming, and then data quality and policy would be other areas we're investing in. And in 2022, we will also have a privacy component, first-class privacy component that is part of the Purview Studio. So we aim to provide these integrated experiences across the entire stack and surface that in new and interesting ways through the same Purview Studio sort of canonical platform. All right, so I'm going to shift to a quick demo here just to show you Purview in action. If I could start the screen share, please let me know if you can see my screen here. All right, so here I have logged in to Purview as a data curator. There's role-based access control available for various aspects of the catalog. This is the homepage of the catalog where you can see we've connected to various data sources and cataloged over 11 million assets here. We also have business glossary functionality within Purview that helps you map terms in a glossary with various categories, et cetera, to be able to map that to the physical assets that might exist in your data estate. So let's very quickly tour through the experience from a consumer perspective. So let's say you want to look at various assets. I'm going to go do a search here. Let's say I start doing just a simple search, text-based search. You see all of the assets across your data estate that are available that match that. So these could be based on the names. This could be based on properties that they have. So we have various algorithms that will let you locate and simplify this and filter this very quickly to be able to get to the assets of interest within the catalog. Let's say you want to look at assets that are in the sales space, so there's sales data here, or maybe you want to go back to one of the assets that I was looking at earlier, which has a lot of the characteristics that we're looking for. Let's say you're looking at sales data, and then as you can see here, here's the detail page for this. You see that this particular asset is sitting within Azure SQL. There are various properties on this. You can add these either directly as we connect and scan those, or you can update them later on. There are various properties that we capture. This is technical metadata. So, for example, when was it created? When was it updated, et cetera. This is a structured asset. So you see its schema. You see all of the columns on this table. And you also see the lineage of this asset. So where did this come from? The lineage, you can drill down into the individual columns and then look at what happens in a particular column. So for example, this particular column on this table went through this ADF process and landed up in this file in ADLS Gen 2, and then that went into this column that exists on that file on the other end. So you can trace the lineage and origin of these things across various services in the that you see here. And then you can also have people metadata that we automatically provide. So for example, who are the experts on this, who are the owners on this, and we also show the hierarchy of related information. So all of the information that you need to know to understand a particular asset in context, whether it's physical metadata, such as where does it sit, what are its properties, its logical metadata in terms of tables and other types of organizations, the business metadata in terms of glossary. So here's a glossary term called marketing development that is applied to the sales order. So you can apply various glossary terms, and we do allow, there's a separate glossary feature here. We'll quickly jump into that and show you. So you can define a hierarchy of terms in a glossary and then attach those to any asset that you want. And then the glossary supports full semantics. For example, go back to that asset, show you the semantic layer. So you'll notice here that this market development and sales glossary term has been applied to that physical asset. And you'll see that there's a definitions here, and you can also look at other related terms around this. So for example, there's a synonym called marketing. There's a related term associated with this called sales, and then there could be some other child terms that inherit from here. And then each of these terms could also have their own contacts, and you can manage who are the stewards, who are the owners of this, and they get to define and look through the life cycle of this. So that's the very simple consumption experience. We also have organizational construct to organize your data. So we support a variety of data sources. So at this point here, you can see that there's a concept of what are called collections. So you can organize your data into logical groups, and you can see here there are quite a few services that we have connected to that we can already catalog out of the box. So it's a very simple thing to register these assets, and then anything within that scope gets put into the right collection that you define. And anytime we scan any assets that you would add to that service will be automatically picked up. Any updates that will happen will get picked up based on any frequency that you set for scanning that metadata. We also look at the content and scan it and then classify it. You noticed a number of classifications such as sensitivity. All of these interop with the labels that you see with the Microsoft Information Protection side. And as you can see here, there's quite a complex landscape in this case for this entity, where we have assets sitting in ADLS, Cosmos DB, Hive on-prem, Oracle on-prem, Cassandra, SAP, Irwin. We support quite a few services out of the box in terms of being able to register data and be able to automatically scan and catalog them. We have 35 plus connectors, and it's growing. And we hope to reach the same milestone as ADF with 100 plus connectors in our footprint in terms of being able to catalog that. What I wanted to show in the rest of this part is to kind of provide the connectivity to say, the Purview Data Catalog's foundation is based on Apache Atlas, so we believe in an open ecosystem with APIs that are coming from the vetted, open source projects such as Apache Atlas. We have full compatibility at the API level, which means you can extend and model any kind of metadata within the space, and to be able to import and be able to use other partner metadata. So if you look here in this environment, we have wired this up to Profisee, and then Eric will walk you through some of these in more detail. But these are entities, for example, here's a customer entity. There's a customer master table that has been consolidated within, after various feeds have gone through and consolidated those within the Profisee environment. And you'll see here that, for example, this particular master entity here, which is sitting in Profisee, was done through this ADF process, and the source for this was this customer table that is sitting, customer Excel, that's sitting within ADLS Gen2. So all of these transformations can be tracked, and then this logical entity has now been wired up through all the pipeline processes back to the physical entities. And then the logical entity has also, we can apply various classifications on this. For example, the schema for this customer master record has all of these various items in here, some of which are sensitive. So we've applied those classifications against that entity. Then Eric will walk you through the rest of this. So all of the things that you saw before in terms of lineage, and there is also this other view, which is the logical view. So you can see how this particular entity is related to various domains. Like, for example, in this case, golden records. What are the various meanings for this? And these are all just metadata models that you can add post hoc. These are not things that may be out of the box, but you can build on your own any kind of custom hierarchy. You can build any kind of custom entities and relations between them with the extensible and open type system that we support. So I'll pause here and then hand it back to Eric to kind of walk through the rest of this. So the main idea here was to show you that after we've gone through all of the pipeline actions that Eric is going to show you in terms of building out this and then scaling this up, we will see how that can be, that is visible and available within the Purview context. Right. Thanks, and back to you, Eric.
All right, so now we're going to, I'm actually going to hand it over to Sunil real quick. He's going to speak for a moment about how ADF ties into this overall story, and then I'll take it from there for demo. Sunil?
Yes, thank you, Eric, and thank you, Martin and Srikant. So here I'm going to talk about Azure Data Factory. As you saw in the previous slides, ADF forms the foundation of this left to right integration, what Martin talked about. So for those who are new, what is Azure Data Factory? So Azure Data Factory is a serverless data integration platform, right? And it's a cloud native. And one of the key attributes that Azure Data Factory has is this is very easy to use, very easy to sign up. And even we have Azure Data Factory, you can start for free, for certain pipelines or certain artifacts. It's free to use, very easy to start, right? Easy to use. It's a drag and drop, and you can do ETL, and you can also run your code to transform. You can do that, and it's very cost effective, right? It follows strict pay-as-you-go model, so that way you can so your cost. Okay, and it is fully managed and serverless. Okay. And it scales on demand. So ADF has both a copy, which moves from point 1 to point 2, and also it supports the transformations, right, which runs on a Spark cluster. So both ways you can scale, as per your need, and it's powerful in the sense, this we have plethora, like we have many enterprise grade connectors. We've like 100 plus connectors. We connect to different data sources, SaaS sources. Even you can connect to on-prem sources. Okay? Both using something called self-hosted integration runtime. You can install, or you can use our recently GA to manage VNet. Okay? And it's intelligent in the sense, we support something called metadata driven copy, right? So we can basically, sense the schema. We also support the schema drift, where you changing schema can be sensed, and we can do auto mapping from your source to sink. So a lot of, intelligent and, data mapping automations are built into the product. And just before I go to the next slide, this year we went to the Magic Quadrant, right? Gartner Magic Quadrant. We were placed in the leadership quadrant. Okay. Thank you, Eric. So here are some fundamental concepts. Again, those who are new in Azure Data Factory. So we have a trigger concepts, which is used to start your pipeline, whether it's a copy or it's a copy with the data flow. You want to trigger, right? So it's a starting, and then we have this pipeline concept, where you're doing a data integration task. So within pipeline, we have a control flow and data flow. So within control flow, we have like lookup and for each, and within that you have several activities. Okay, so if you understand the trigger, pipeline, activity, those three concepts, you could be quickly productive, using Data Factory. And what you see from the connectivity side, we have something called the linked service, which is basically our way of telling, what is a connection string. With our linked service, you can use these connectors to connect, several, SaaS sources, databases, even your on-prem sources. Okay. And also, okay, go ahead. Yeah. So I know Srikant talked about 100 plus connectors. Yes, we have more than, but here we have 98 plus custom connectors. You can see, right? Salesforce. So we connect to Salesforce. We have IBM DB2. We have Oracle. You can Azure SQL Server, SQL MI. And then on top of this, right, for your SaaS applications, you can use a REST connector to connect Okay, so here in Profisee, we use our REST connector, ADF's REST connector, to pull the data, from a REST source and write to ADL agent. Again, we use the REST connector to write back to Profisee using Profisee's REST gateway. And so REST allows you, to connect to a variety of, emerging data sources. On top of that, we have the protocol level support like ODBC, right? So with ODBC, you can connect to any data sources, and your, even data destinations also. Okay, so this covers most of your data source and destination needs. Okay, next slide. So just to give you kind of a high level use for you, right? You can see that we support a data movement and the transformation at scale. Okay, and also we support all authentication methods. Nowadays with security being a big concern, right? We offer we manage identity level, service principal level, right? And then we have recently we announced UMI, user level access, managed identity. Okay, and also coming back to security, because Azure security is bolted onto Data Factory. What I mean that you can build a data integration pipeline end to end using only private endpoints. Okay, so that could be most secure you can have, right? And you can lock up your data, in copy or in transformation from end to end. Okay, using a private endpoints, and we also recently GA'd like a managed VNet. Okay, ADF managed VNet. Okay? And as orchestration is a big need for many enterprises, because you want to schedule your pipelines. For that we support not only schedule triggers, we support the tumbling window triggers. We have a custom event triggers, right? Suppose something happens, you want to trigger a pipeline, and you can do that. And as I told you, like using our web activity and REST activity, you can really expand Data Factory to integrate other ecosystems. Okay, and also another big feature what we support is called external activity, right? So in that you can host any external activity and orchestrate visually, drag and drop, right? Say some stored procedure activity or some Azure batch activity, that really gives you a lot of power and capability using a single platform like Azure Data Factory.
All right. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and pivot into the demo. So are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks for that, Sunil. So what we're going to do now is actually show end-to-end how all of this hooks together. So to begin with, we're starting here in Profisee. This is the Fast App portal. This is where a data steward would start their day. And we can scroll down here. We can see some notifications, some tasks for me to complete. I could look at the list of tasks that I need to complete immediately. We're going to start off here is focusing in on some customer data. So if we're going to go into the application that we've configured for managing customer data. And the scenario here is that we're a company that owns a division of bicycle stores called City Limits Bikes. And one of the common challenges you see out there in the world with data is the need to understand who your customers are. And a lot of times you're dealing with duplicate data. So you might have a customer that's in the system multiple times. So it's really hard to understand your total relationship and the total lifetime value of that customer. So this sort of matching and golden record management is one of the key capabilities that you see from a lot of MDM platforms out there in the market. So on this screen, we can see that we've got our data from our City Limits division. We've got some Salesforce and other applications in here. We've got our golden records. And down here, we can see the various statuses. And we're going to, just to give you a sense of how this works, we're going to go look at a group that's been formed. So these records were loaded into Profisee, and we used our ML-based matching engine to identify and group these records together. So you can see that we have an Alyssa Cox with a record that we have in Salesforce and another record that we have coming from our City Limits sales system. And you'll notice that these two records are proposed matches, and that's because her name has actually been slightly misspelled within one of these applications. If we want to understand the details, we can click into the underlying score. We can see here that it was the name attribute that drove the lower overall result. So we have full visibility into what happened. Now what we can do with this by forming these groups and creating these golden records that represent the best version of this individual is we can then use that to do some analysis that historically is very difficult. It's always very hard to create that conformed customer dimension and solve some of these data challenges. So hopping over here into Azure Synapse, what's nice now is that Power BI has actually been baked into Synapse, so we can actually access our cross-sell analysis report directly within Azure Synapse. Let's go ahead and reopen this guy. And I have a backup, so while that's loading. So I have this preloaded here just within Power BI Desktop. And here you can see, the sales data that's been trended over time. We can see who our top customers are. And what's nice about this now is that Christian Blakely, this is one of our top customers. And this is that golden record that represents Christian Blakely. But we can expand that. We can see that behind the scenes, there's actually multiple different source records underneath Christian Blakely with different spellings. And by grouping these together, we can actually get a better idea of who our top customers really are. Now, in this scenario, we've actually just acquired another company, so a new division with a new line of products. What we want to understand is our opportunities to cross-sell additional sales within our newly acquired customer base with our new product lines. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to drop into the data lake. This just represents some new sales data that's arriving into the data lake. And what's going to happen as this data arrives is Azure Data Factory, using some of the capabilities Sunil mentioned, is actually going to detect a new file. It'll automatically start executing some pipelines to load this data. So one of those pipelines is going to be grabbing the distinct customer information from that source file that was dropped in the data lake, and it's going to be loading that into the Profisee platform via REST. So this is, again, just using some of the native capabilities of ADF. We've worked, our two teams have collaborated together to make this really simple to do using native capabilities of Azure Data Factory. And so you can see here some of the pipelines that we're running as a part of this overarching process. What's also kind of nice is that we've also worked with the ADF team to create some templates that provide some out-of-the-box starting points for organizations that are looking to get started pushing data in and out of the Profisee platform over REST. The other thing that's going on here behind the scenes, we're actually also loading that sales data from that same file straight into Synapse in the SQL pool. So here you can see, Azure Data Factory itself is embedded into Synapse. We have a pipeline that's running here, data straight into the SQL pool. So this is a pretty common pattern where we have some data, we want to ultimately land in analytics. We want to run the customer data through our MDM platform to improve it on the way over to our analytics environment. And that'll get married back together with the transactional data that was pulled in separately. So if we pivot back over here to Profisee now, what we can see here, if we refresh our screen, is we have our, it's not in here yet. So we're going to go ahead and give that a moment to wrap up. In the meantime, I'm going to pivot over to kind of show you some other capabilities of the platform. So, so we're going to flip over here to our product application. And our product application is where we can use to manage product data. We have this new information that's arrived from this new subsidiary. So one thing so for me, I am the product manager of mountain bikes. And so I'm going to go ahead and filter this down. And here I can see a couple of different things. First off, relationships are very important in the context of data management. And so if I open this up, we actually have the ability to visualize these relationships. And in here I can see, for this particular product, what country it's manufactured in. I can see some pricing extensions that have been created for this individual record. What's nice is we're publishing all of these relationships as assets back into Purview. So we see here a Purview icon light up, which allows us to tap into the information, governance information that's coming from Purview, and lighting that up in place for the data steward within Profisee. Another key capability of our platform from a data management perspective is data quality. And there's really two facets to data quality. The first one are predefined data quality rules. So you can think of these as rules that the business is aware of that we can define that will capture potential issues in the data. And here we can see one of those records that's been flagged by one of those predefined rules, which is, our MSRP must be more than 50% greater than standard cost. It's a way of protecting our margins. And if we go ahead and open up this individual record, I, as the expert of this particular product line, can see here that actually the MSRP is correct, and I know that really it's the standard cost that isn't correct. And by changing that and closing out, you can see here that we automatically reevaluate this record for data quality and close it out. So that's a hard data quality issue. Now, one of the common challenges that we see out there in the broader market is that a lot of times you don't really know about data quality issues until you see them. And so what we've done is we've added machine learning capabilities now to the Profisee platform to create another type of data quality, another facet of data quality, which are anomalies. So this is something that's really exciting because a lot of times there's this long tail of issues, you don't know about them, you don't want to maintain this ever-growing list of rules, but we want to be able to spot these things with a minimal amount of effort. A lot of organizations struggle to get the amount of data stewardship capacity they need, so this is a way of minimizing that. So what we've built is a Python-based machine learning microservice into the platform. We can then use that to configure machine learning strategy. So we've configured an anomaly strategy. What that's done is it's highlighted this record as an anomaly relative to other records in the data set. And if we click on that anomaly, we can see here that there's an issue between the relationship between the MSRP and the product subcategory. And we've got a little explanation up here that helps us understand what is a normal distribution of pricing of an MSRP value for this type of product. And again, as the expert of this particular product, I can go ahead and change that to the correct value. We see here that we should redraw the explanation, so you can see it looks like we're now in a much more normal range. And upon saving that, this record will be reevaluated. If we refresh, you'll see that it's fallen out of the list of anomalies. So there's hard data quality issues that we can define up front, and then there's anomalies which we can use machine learning to identify by training and scoring your data against a machine learning model. One last facet of common requirement is around hierarchy management. So we just acquired a new company. Now we have 2 different product lines, and we've actually loaded those products in here. We've got a little hierarchy that we can use to maintain the products between these different product lines, creating a common way of rolling up this information within the Profisee platform. All right, so now we're going to pivot back over to our customer solution and check out how everything looks. And so after another minute or so, that file was processed into Profisee. And so what's happened now is we've loaded a new set of source customers, so our 2 wheels bikes customers. And Profisee has a process called continuous matching. So as these records were added, we detected that these were new unmatched customer records. We went ahead and processed them through the system. Now, if we go back and look at our proposed records again, we can still see our Alyssa Cox customer. If we open her up, we can see that now we have our original city limits and Salesforce records, but we've also added to that 2 additional duplicate customer records coming from 2 wheels. So now we're starting to get a better understanding of who this customer is within our organization. And now there's a couple things that we can do here. First, we can actually perform a survivorship, so we can actually manage the information across these groups. So for example, I could pick, maybe this is really the correct spelling that I want to use for this customer's name. I could push some of this additional address information down to some of the other source systems. Clearly here, this does look like a good group. I could go ahead and approve these proposed records. And another capability we have is if we're not clear on how this group formed and why, we can actually visualize this group. So we have a match group visualizer, which will actually allow us to see which records match to whom within this group. So we have one record that actually matched up to the golden record. We have these records down here that kind of matched amongst each other. And now if we decided that, hey, for some reason, these records don't really belong together, we have a mechanism that we can use to see maybe how we want to break this group back apart. And then one other, just to highlight it a little bit, we talked a little bit about Purview, and Srikant showed in Purview, some information we captured about our customer entity from a governance perspective. And this is again exposed and lit up within Profisee. So as you do governance within Purview, that information is made available back within Profisee in line for the data steward. So with everything complete here, we can actually pivot back over to Synapse. We'll open back up our Power BI dashboard. Okay. And the first thing that we can see here is that the additional sales information that we captured from our new acquisition is in the system, and we can see the various sales that's occurred over time. And if we refresh one more time, what we'll ultimately see is the sales data for Two Wheels Wholesale synced up within our Synapse environment as well. And there we are. So now what we can see here now is that with the city limits bikes and the Two Wheels Wholesale data, that this customer, Allison Arms, is actually one of our top customers now with the Two Wheels data. And that represents a significant business opportunity because Allison Arms has bought a lot of products from Two Wheels bikes, but nothing from city limits. So clearly now we have a new line of products that we can leverage and go position and cross-sell into that existing customer. And then other customers, we can actually see our total relationships. So Christian Blakely here, we can see that Christian Blakely has sales against 2 customer records coming from city limits, and then 3 other records from Two Wheels Wholesale. So this helps us understand our total relationship with each of these customers. And most importantly, it allows us to identify potential white space where we could go do a cross-sell promotion and help educate our existing customers about these new lines of products that are available with our new acquisition. So with that, hopefully that helps you understand how we've connected all these dots, how we can use Purview to provide governance and an integration between Profisee and Purview on that front, how we can use Azure Data Factory to automatically integrate and flow information from source all the way through analytics, and the role Profisee can play in improving the quality of your data. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Martin, who will wrap up.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Sunil and Srikanth, for all of your work as well. So we've covered a huge amount of stuff here today. We're probably all a little bit breathless and fire-hosed at the end of this, but in the next couple of minutes, I'll wrap this up and give you some pointers for future resources. So we set our learning objectives at the beginning were, why does Azure Data Estate need master data management? And the answer, hopefully clearly, is that MDM ensures high-quality, trusted data, which will unlock the value of Azure. Without high-quality, trusted data, all of those data-intensive projects that you're trying to accomplish in Azure will suffer, sometimes fatally, sometimes it'll slow you down, but clearly that's something that needs to be taken care of. Why is a multi-domain approach essential? Because most business use cases require multiple domains. A single domain, it may be a good start, but it's unlikely to get you to those higher level transformational goals that you would be looking for. And why is Profisee MDM the best MDM solution for Azure? It's a cloud native solution and it is integrated with Azure. And we spent a lot of time in this webcast here talking about how it's integrated with Purview, how it's integrated for governance, because master data management and governance are very closely related, 2 sides of the same coin, you might say. How it's integrated with Azure Data Factory so that we can integrate data in and out of, move data in and out of Profisee from source systems and into Synapse and Power BI for reporting. And really how it is cloud native in Azure with the platform as a service solution. So hopefully those gave you the answers that you were looking for. If you're looking for further information, we've done, I think, a good job of answering a lot of the questions in chat. If there's anything that we failed to answer during the call here, we'll follow up directly through email separately. If you're looking for more information around Profisee, please just go to our website, of course, and you can request a custom demo or a conversation or whatsoever you would like as follow-up on our homepage. And there's a lot of resources there that talk about the integration with Microsoft and Purview and Azure Data Factory, and specifically reference architectures. These are not very friendly to retype, but if you're looking for the reference architecture to integrate Purview and Azure Data Factory, go to docs.microsoft.com and search on Profisee. And I'll flash this up here and not speak about it, but there's a lot of additional information, of course, on Microsoft's various websites around their products as well. So we're at the top of the hour and at the end of this webcast. So I would like to thank everyone for their time. I think we've had hardly any drop-off. Most people have stayed right to the end, and we thank you for that. There will be a link mailed out for a replay because this was a lot of information in a short period of time, so you may want to refer to that. And with that, we will thank everyone again for your time, including our presenters, Eric, Sunil, and Srikanth. And we hope you got something positive out of this. Thank you very much.